Hello! In this video we're going to be taking a look at the different assassin classes available in Breach as of the alpha build and just kind of showing off their general play style and showing some of the animations for some of the abilities as well and trying to help you decide maybe which one you'd like to pick. So we're starting out with the Auros Gladiator. This is a battle mage, and they're going to use the two-handed sword that the battle mages use. So if you are starting off with an assassin and you're looking for something melee that does big chunky swings of damage, then this is going to be the definite pick for you. So take a look here. This is kind of the basic attack sequence that you have. Now the Auros Gladiator does a lot of air juggles. So if we jump in and take a look at the abilities, the signature ability for the Gladiator is going to be Zephyr Strike. This launches you into the air and it'll launch your target enemy into the air as well. This is kind of the way that you begin your juggle combos. You're going to gain damage resistance and impact resistance when you use this ability as well. So we'll take a quick look at this. We're going to spawn in a brawler here, and so we can just run up over to this guy and boom, there we go. We're up in the air. That's when we can start our juggle combos. Now, once we get into the air, we have a couple of different things that we can do. We can use our Cyclone Blade on the number 2 key, and this is going to do some sustained damage while we're in the air. So if we spawn in a brawler again, we go ahead and juggle and then hit that Cyclone. So Cyclone Blade, that's going to do that in-air juggle like that. We also can slam the target back down into the ground with our number 3 key, which is Downburst. So let's take a look at that one. So we're going to launch into the air and then slam them back down to the ground with Downburst. Alright, and then finally our ultimate ability here, we can use this in the air as well. This is Gladiator's Wrath, and it will repeatedly slam the target over and over again, dealing extreme damage. So most of the abilities we have are all about getting things into the air and juggling them. We do have one utility ability, which is our Auros Grasp over on the number 1 key. So Auros Grasp is basically just a pull ability. So we can spawn in a guy here, we can target him, and that will yank him over to us. We can pop him up to the air, do our Cyclone, slam him down into the ground if, you know, he's got a little more health than that. So that's the Auros Gladiator, the sort of big, chunkier melee assassin with a two-handed sword focused on juggling. Next up for the assassins, we have the Lich. The Lich is going to be another melee assassin, this time in the Dark School of Magic. So they're going to be using the Scythe auto attack. We can check that out here. There's a basic combo for that. And then overall, the Lich is kind of like a specialist character in a sense. They have a lot of interesting abilities that you have to use strategically. You're not really just running in there and just trying to smash things. So the first thing we have is our signature ability, Death Touch. We're going to target an enemy and build up power, then teleport to the target and deal damage based on the duration held. Now this is kind of an annoying ability to try to show against a single target, so I'm going to go ahead and spawn in a hero here and spawn in an elite, and we're going to have our guy go and attack him. So if we start to charge this up, you're going to see the bar underneath our reticle is showing how long we have, and once we charge up, we're going to teleport and deal a ton of damage. Alright, so let's go ahead and despawn everything here just to get back to some order. So that is our signature ability, and as you can tell, that's going to be an ability that you're going to be able to better utilize if you're not the one who has the attention of the enemy. Next up in our number 1 key, we have Overwhelming Power. This is going to emanate a violet aura out from you, which is going to deal damage to all nearby enemies and give you impact resistance. So we'll spawn in a couple brawlers here and just take a look. So that's going to give us this aura. It's just going to stay around us for a few seconds and deal AoE damage to everything. Next up, we have our Crippling Rake. This is going to send out energy, dealing damage to enemies and increasing the damage of your spells against them. So once again, If we go and get ahead, spawn in a couple brawlers, we're going to send out a wave of energy. And if they had survived, our other abilities would be doing more damage against those targets as well. Then we have Phylactery, and this is a very interesting ability. So what this does is it puts down a Phylactery in a position which contains your soul, and it essentially makes your body immune to damage while it's out. So you can go and place this, maybe around the corner, and then you're going to see there's a link connected to you. And I can spawn in some guys here, and they're going to start attacking me, and it won't do any damage. So for as long as the Phylactery is up, then I will be immune. Now you can see that they've figured out that the Phylactery is there. They're going to go over and they're going to destroy it. And as they do that, now I start to take damage. And then you can break off the Phylactery whenever you like. So you've got to strategically position that, because if you put it in the way of like some AoE abilities, you could take damage out of nowhere. But this does give you the ability to kind of set that up somewhere, maybe drop off, a little ledge or something, and do a lot of damage without having to worry about your health. And then finally, our ultimate ability is Arcane Siphon. This is going to silence all nearby enemies and prevent them from casting their abilities. And they're going to get charges of bonus damage buffs as well. So that is the Lich. A little bit more of kind of like a strategic melee assassin that you're going to want to be able to use when you're not the center of attention, generally. That way you can use their signature ability to great effect. And you're going to be in there mixing it up with people doing AoE damage, silencing targets, all that kind of good stuff. Next up, we have our first ranged assassin. This is going to be the Demon Hunter. This is in the Hedge Mage School of Magic, so they're going to use the shotgun as their primary attack. Let's take a look at that now. Pretty standard. The interesting thing with the ranged characters that uses guns is you actually do have ammo, and you do have to reload your guns when they run out of ammo. So the shotgun has 6 shots by default, and if we fire all those off, you're going to see that our character will take time to reload when you try to fire again. You can manually trigger that by hitting the R key as well, so I could fire off 2 shots, hit the reload button, and get back up to 6. Now, our signature ability is going to be Stick a Grenade. This is going to throw out a grenade that does damage in a small area, and it will stick to enemies, but you can just shoot it out by itself as well. And you start out with 4 charges of that. So let's go ahead and spawn in a couple of enemies, and we'll just throw out our Stick a Grenade on one of them. And there you go. Next up, we have Marked Shots. So this is going to deal damage to an enemy, and it's going to decrease their damage resistance, which is going to cause you to be able to deal a little bit more damage to them. So we can spawn in Brawler, so we can use that ability, and it does a nice chunk of damage, and like I said, it will decrease their damage resistance. Next, we have Binding Circle. This is a trap. It's going to trigger when the first enemy walks over it, and it roots all enemies in place until the trap fades. So we can go ahead and put that down. We'll spawn in a couple of brawlers here, and they're going to run over to us. You're going to see that's going to root them. We throw our Sticky Grenade in there and take care of them. Then we have Banishing Relic. This is going to deal damage, interrupt enemy abilities, and banish an enemy as well. It only works on strong enemies or elites. Now, you're going to be able to tell the difference. If you look, a regular enemy has a small health bar like that. A strong enemy is going to have a big segmented health bar, so we can cast that on them, and that will just banish them. And you can choose to cancel the banish whenever you like. So that is a good way to crowd control a creature, a powerful creature, and get them out of the fight for a little while you focus on other targets. Then finally, the ultimate ability here is Siphoning Skull. This is going to channel a beam, applying stun and dealing a bunch of damage to a targeted enemy. It will also give you some health back. So the Demon Hunter is kind of a a mid-range character. You've got a little bit of range with the shotgun, you've got your grenades and your marked targets, but you're also using your traps on enemies. You got a little bit of health steal with your ultimate ability, but you've still got to get in, you know, that kind of mid-range zone to be able to use your shotgun effectively, and hopefully to hit multiple targets with it. Alright, we're back to the melee assassins here with the Shadowblade. They are part of the Shadow School of Magic, and they use kind of like these twin swords here as their primary weapon. They do pretty fast attacks, a little bit of spin there on the end. These are kind of like the rogue style characters within the game. And our signature ability is going to be Ambush. This will teleport to a target and deal heavy damage. So if we spawn in a couple of brawlers here, you can see that. And it doesn't outright say it here within the text, but it appears that if you kill the target, it will reset the cooldown on the ability. So you can see there is a cooldown, but when the target dies, it goes away. If I spawn in a more powerful enemy that won't die to that ability, you'll see it does a chunk of damage, and then it goes on to like a 12-second cooldown. So it's a good ability to use to kind of jump through a bunch of low-level targets and kill them in one hit. Next up, we have Lethal Strike. This will just stab a target for a high amount of damage. So without having to use your ambush, you can still take out those low-level enemies. It's also got a much faster cooldown. Then we have Assassinate. This is a heavy damaging finishing move with bonus damage applied to lower health targets. So it's only a finishing move in the sense that it does more damage to higher health targets. Otherwise, it can be just be used as a standard attack. You don't have to like build up a resource and then use it. It's just, you know, stylistically themed as a finishing attack by having that increased damage. Our next ability on the 3 key is Vanish, and that's exactly what it says it is. It's going to turn you invisible to enemies until you decide to act. So you can use that to sneak up on different targets or to move from objective to objective. And then finally, your ultimate ability is Mass Ambush, and this does extreme damage to a single target and heavy damage to nearby enemies. So you can think of it as like a stronger AoE ambush ability. So generally on the Shadowblade, you're going to be going around picking off, targets, either focusing, your powerful attacks onto stronger enemies or using your Assassinate chains to go through a bunch of smaller enemies and quickly kill them off. You can also use your stealth to move from objective to objective. Alright, next up we have another melee assassin in the Shadow School of Magic. This is the Nighthawk. The Nighthawk is kind of similar to the Auros Gladiator in the sense that this is the Shadow Mage version of an air combat juggling style assassin. So they're going to use the twin swords just like the Shadowblade did. And we've got our little melee combo here. But everything after that is totally different. So our signature ability is going to be Bird of Prey, and this is going to launch a target up into the air. So we can go ahead and spawn one of these guys in. Boom, now we're up in the air, and we can use our auto attack to finish them off, or we can get into our other abilities to do that. So on the number 2 key here, we have Talon Frenzy. This does an extreme amount of damage over a short duration to a target enemy, and you can use this in the air. So we can launch a target, and then use Talon Frenzy. Pretty cool looking ability. I'm kind of stuck in the air here now. That's alpha for you, right? Then we have our Dive Bomb ability on number 3, and this lets us slam the target back down to the ground. So this is going to deal damage, and it will deal bonus damage if the target is in the air. So unlike the Auros Gladiator, which just did a set amount of damage, this will actually deal a little bit more if you use the ability in the air. On our number 1 key, we have Fleeting Talon, and this is an escape ability that will root the target, and you can also use this in the air. So if you're in the middle of doing something and you're in a bad, situation, then you can use this ability to escape. Main thing with this is you have to have a target for it, because it's going to root something. And like it said, you can use this in the air if you like. So you can launch and then apply there. Our next ranged assassin is the Gunslinger, and they're part of the Tech Magic School. And they're going to be using dual pistols. They kind of evoke the running gun, mercenary, sort of fantasy. And for their auto attack, they're just going to do a pretty standard rate of fire with their pistols. I mentioned it before, but with the range classes that use guns, you do have ammunition. And when you run out of that ammunition, your character will automatically reload. But you can manually reload by hitting the R key in case you want to do that in between waves of enemies or as you're transitioning from room to room. The signature ability for the Gunslinger is going to be Boom Shot, and this fires a bullet that explodes and does AoE damage. Alright, so we're going to get them to run over and group up, and boom, there we go. Nice AoE explosion. Our next ability is going to be Quick Feet. This will remove root and slow effects and make you immune to them for the duration, and it will also increase your movement speed. A little bit of a speed buff there for you. Next up, we have Ricochet Shot, and this will fire a bullet that will bounce between enemies. So if we go ahead, we pick one of our targets, and we fire, and you can see that's going to bounce between multiple targets. Next up, we have Rapid Fire Clip. So this is going to load a Rapid Fire Clip into the gun, which will increase the rate that you fire and increase the impact damage as well. So you can see here, if I go ahead, fire off some bullets, and let's spawn in an enemy here. We hit Rapid Fire, that's going to be full ammunition, and then I'm going to shoot a lot faster until the clip runs out, and then it puts me back at a regular clip. The ultimate ability for the Gunslinger is Lead Storm, and this basically fires a ton of bullets in front of you as if you were shooting a Gatling gun or maybe dual wielding some Uzis, and it does massive damage over time to all enemies that are hit in the area of effect. So the Gunslinger is, a pretty good go-to, standard, well-rounded, ranged assassin that does happen to use guns. Pretty solid overall, does a lot of AoE and multi-target damage. Alright, the final assassin is a ranged assassin, and we're taking a look at the Sniper, who's another class within the Tech Magic School of Magic. So we've got another dual pistol user here, and that auto attack for them is just a nice and easy rate of fire on the pistols here. As I mentioned before, if you're on a ranged character that's using guns, you do have ammunition, and when you run out, your character will automatically reload, but you can choose to manually reload by hitting the R key if you want to do that between fights or between rooms. The signature ability for this Sniper is Snipe. And what this will do is after a short delay, it'll deal a massive amount of damage to a target. So if we go ahead and we spawn in, we're going to spawn in a little bit stronger enemy here. We got a little charge up, and then as you can see, that did about half a health bar's worth of damage. And if you look at how long it takes to do a pretty equivalent amount of damage with just the auto attack, you can see how powerful that is. Our next ability is Vortex Slug. This is going to fire a shot that creates a vortex on impact, and it will suck enemies into the vortex and deal damage to them. Let's spawn a couple people in here, and we can just fire that out, and that's going to suck them in and deal damage to them. Our next ability is Tactical Strike, or Tactical Shot. This is going to deal heavy damage and imply hinder to a target. So hinder is essentially going to slow the target down and put a nice debuff on them. Our next ability is going to be our snare trap. So this will place a trap down that will damage and root the first enemy that steps on it. So you start out with 6 charges of these, and you can kind of put them out however you like. We could put them out in a row here. Spawn in another guy. And when he runs across, he's going to get snared, and we could snipe him. We could run back across our snares. Give our snipe time to charge up again. And take him out. So that's going to help you to keep enemies off of you and to keep, you know, these larger, more powerful enemies snared so that you have time to use your powerful single target abilities. And then our final ability, our ultimate, is Precision Barrage. This will unload a ton of damage onto a single target. It's a like rapid fire pistol shot. Not quite as many bullets as you get on the Gunslinger, but it also is only targeted at a single enemy, so all that damage gets funneled into a single target and does a ton of damage. So the Sniper is going to be an assassin class that is very, very focused on crowd control and dealing a ton of burst damage to a single target. So you're best off kind of trying to focus on helping your party out by using like your vortex shot to suck things in so they can hit them with their AoEs, or by picking off the more powerful targets with your snipe and with your ultimate. Alright, so that's going to do it. That's all of the assassin classes in Breach. At the end of the day, the one that you play really comes down to your play style. The other thing to keep in mind is that as you level up these characters, you're going to unlock the ability to customize your ability loadout with some of the other spells that are available from the other classes that are in the same school of magic. So for example, the Sniper is able to unlock some abilities from the Gunslinger and put those onto their bar in place of some others. So for example, I could take, you know, Vortex Slug from the Sniper and I could apply that to my Gunslinger in place of one of the standard abilities and create a custom loadout. So think about the way that each of the classes play, but also think about the other classes within the same school of magic that you can use to customize and create the perfect assassin class for you. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Check out some other videos on my channel and subscribe if you like them. I appreciate you watching. I hope you're having a great time in whatever it is that you're doing. And as always, I'll see you on the next video.